Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Surya Pastricha, and in today's episode I'm going to speak to Gabriella Hattari, who is the founder of WorkHuman, which is a social impact venture based out of Indonesia. Gabriella started her venture right in school and has amassed a massive traction of over 50,000 plus people across Indonesia. Her venture WorkHuman is not just a brand but an identity fighting for social justice issues through creative t-shirts and creative means. She is also a TEDx speaker and a global youth icon. In this video, Gabriella talks about her journey of starting WorkHuman as a school student, the challenges she faced, and the learnings along the way. If you are still in your teens or 20s, do watch this video till the end. There's definitely gonna be lots of learnings and a lot of inspiration packed for you in this fun. So without any further delays, let's get started talking to Gabriella. Welcome to the podcast, Gabriella. Thank you so much for joining us. It is really a pleasure hosting you today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. I hope you're doing well too.
Yeah, I'm great as well. The first time I came across your venture, WorkHuman, I was like, wow, this is such a brilliant thing and an idea to be working on. And I personally read about WorkHuman and how you guys are doing such an amazing work in Indonesia. But can you, for our listeners, give us a brief about yourself and what WorkHuman is really about, and also how you started off with the entire idea?
Thank you so much for your kind words, by the way. So WorkHuman essentially is a social initiative and also a social business, as I like to call it. And we're based in Jakarta, Indonesia. So how we operate is that as a business, we're youth led, we're youth operated, and we sell various merchandises such as t-shirts or pins and even jackets. And we collaborate with various NGOs or grassroots initiatives in Indonesia, where half of our profits are donated to these various NGOs or initiatives. So it's a very socially fueled project that we have, where in turn we also help youths realize various passions or fields that they're in, perhaps related to business or graphic design. And in turn, we also give back to our community, especially through the various organizations that we're collaborating with. So essentially, that's how WorkHuman operates. That's what it is. But in short, yes, we're a social initiative or a social business.
That's really great. And I personally believe that there is kind of thought process behind everything one does, and especially when one chooses the name for the venture, because you need to make that mass appeal, especially in the case of a social impact venture. So, on that note, what led you to the name for your venture being WorkHuman?
I found the word woke sometime during middle school, when I was still in middle school, and just my first impression of it was that the word woke, it's a word that lots of young kids use nowadays. Like I would say that, like maybe a lot of Gen Zers would use to describe someone who is socially aware, or someone who has the knowledge of various social issues that are happening around the world, someone who's socially conscious. And that's why I decided to choose that word woke, because as a brand, not only do we want to give back to our communities through the profit sharing method or the philanthropic business model that we have, but we also want to be able to give a long lasting impact to within our communities, not just the communities that we work with, but also communities outside of that. So my idea is that when people buy, let's say, our products, our shirts, our pins, I want people to also learn the issue behind why we're collaborating with this certain organization, and not only through our products, but also a lot of the content that we post on social media aims to educate youths, especially Indonesian youths, on various issues which are going on in the world, through various lenses, especially through our products as well, and the content that we have.
And I mean, your journey is really wonderful, and I'm sure it must have given you a lot of learnings along the way, as well as taken a lot of your hard work and determination to reach where you are today. So, Also, I'm quite sure you must be a really creative person, especially since you came up with this idea of evoking the concept of social justice through your brand. So, what was that aha moment like for you, where you just thought to yourself, I'm gonna spread the message and promote equality through t-shirts, and why choose t-shirts and not anything else?
Okay. I don't necessarily think there was like one specific aha moment. I think it was something that gradually I learned throughout time that, hey, this might be a pretty good idea. So if I could give just like a short backstory as well, I started WorkHuman in late 2017, and that time I was still 11th grade in high school. Um, and I specifically remember during this time, I was a student who's very much into history. I loved history and I loved learning about politics. I was involved in like, if you know MUN, like Model United Nations and like debate, things like that. So on that side, I was someone who's very much interested in like getting to know more about, politics and how they intersect with, society in general, and like what issues are going on, how they affect us, things like that. And on another hand, during this time, I was also interested in business, specifically entrepreneurship. I didn't have any prior experience to business before this at all. I didn't. It's just something that I picked up through time because I learned from my peers around me, and I took an economics class as well. So I had the basic knowledge of it, right? But I wasn't fully, I thought that I wasn't fully I wasn't fully learning about different theories of business, or like how to properly operate a business and like all of that. So it was just something that I just wanted to learn in the first place. So with those two, I would say, passions that I had during that time, entrepreneurship and politics slash social issues, being socially aware, I figured, why not mesh both of like those two interests or passions that I had during that time. And so that's how I initially had the idea of, starting a business, but not starting the regular type of business with a certain with a certain motive to generate a profit, but starting a business with a certain motive to reflect on like a social cause, to have social value. And I think another thing that I also wanted to do during that time was that I was still very young, right? So I didn't have the full, knowledge or experience of like how to fully operate a business, like, and doing all of that basically. So I also wanted to challenge myself and see if I can make this certain initiative be youth operated. So I wanted a lot of high school students involved. I wanted a lot of college students involved. I wanted a lot of young people involved, right? Because when we talk about the issues facing us today, I feel like the younger generation will have to carry that as well for the future. And it's still a lengthy process, obviously, but I feel like it's a start somewhere. And I think that not only will involving youths help them learn more about the social issue or like the cause, or anything to do with that certain, with politics or whatnot, but it'll also help them grow their hard skills and their soft skills as well. By involving themselves in business, they actually get to learn like, oh, this is how you communicate with a customer, this is how you negotiate with a supplier, how you manage relations with vendors or with your peers and whatnot. So I wanted to take that challenge as well and involve as much youths as I can. And yeah, that's pretty much the lengthy story of how I kind of had that idea to start like, oh, a social business. I don't think it was like an aha moment, but I think it's like something that I just learned throughout time. But yeah, that's how it went.
I'm really interested. Like, why did you specifically choose t-shirts over anything else? Like, what made you realize that t-shirts are going to be the best way to deliver that kind of message which you wanted to put forward through Bookhuman?
So I feel like I would have two reasons for that. The first one would be that it's the most cost-friendly option, starting a business as a youth with honestly not much experience in the past. It's very risky if I did any other venture, or if I sold any other product. And I feel like t-shirts was one of the most safest options because there are if we're talking about, let's say, like the business aspect of things, Jakarta and cities where I live and cities surrounding it, is also known to be a hub for a lot of t-shirt vendors here. So we take a lot of, local pride, I guess, in fueling this project as well. Since we also wanted to have like a small dash of like local authenticity as well by like through the products that we make. So that's pretty much the first reason. And the second I would say is like versatility, right? Because I feel like everyone uses t-shirts. Like wherever you go, yeah, pretty much everyone uses t-shirts. Like
It's an
it
evergreen
just definitely
product.
depends on like the occasion. Right. It depends on like the occasion and whatnot. But like just in general, t-shirts are something that you would see every day, depending on like the time of the day, but everyone in general, I feel, uses t-shirts. So we wanted to in the start, I wanted to create a certain product that people would be able to see like right in front of their eyes. And since WorkHuman is also very design based, and what I mean by that is we create various designs that also reflect on a certain social issue. We wanted people to see those designs at face value, right? So that's why we created a T-shirt. When people wear these shirts, we also want them to know that like, oh, it's not just any other T-shirt you're wearing, but the certain designs that were fabricated in each of these shirts actually have a deeper meaning to it. And with that, I think, and I actually hope that it sparks conversation about various issues that relates to the shirt itself. So I think that's kind of a deep like journey or process, but that's initially like how I felt like it was the best decision to start off with t-shirts.
Wow, I mean, this is so magical, especially since, WorkHuman is not just a clothing brand from what I'm getting from a conversation right now, but it is also a platform which, resonates social justice issues. So, I mean, you're, doing an amazing job with the venture, especially in this era where injustices and phobias of the past are still being carried out. And, in some sort of way, I can really sense the sheer difficulty of starting a social impact venture because when I was back in my second year of college, I also tried to start something on my own, but I had to face a lot of challenges. And it made me realize that maybe I can try starting a venture later when I graduate from college, so that I have enough experience, enough internship experience to, start a new venture. And it also, develops narratives that ultimately lead to change people's mindsets or perspectives to look at certain things. So how hard was that for you at WorkHuman, and what set of challenges did you face and still sometimes face?
There's definitely so many challenges, not just starting in not just in woke human or like starting a business, but I feel like to everyone, right? Starting a certain initiative or organization or whatever it is that you are, whatever it is that you're starting. But for me personally, I would say the biggest problem or biggest challenge that I have until today, especially with, and I feel like a lot of people would relate to this, but especially since I'm still a student in college, is definitely time management. Time management and figuring out the right schedules to actually execute all of like your projects that you have, but also making sure that you also have time for other commitments as well. It's something that I'm still facing, and I'm still trying my best to navigate through all of those challenges. But I feel like it's getting much more better, hopefully. Yeah, time management is definitely one of the biggest problems that I've had, because I'm a student, a full-time student in college as well. And yeah, especially during this time where everything is virtual, I feel like a lot of our, a lot of, I I feel like most of the time our schedules are always booked by Zoom calls and a lot of small little, miscellaneous like events that you just want to squeeze in because they're all virtual. So that has made it quite challenging, for me to keep on top of things and on top of other commitments. But how I essentially face that challenge nowadays is that every time I'm faced with a lot of events for a certain week or a certain period of time, let's say a month, I always rank it in order of priority, and in order of urgency. And I will always have at least like an hour gap between each and every event, just because I think having that gap allows you to navigate yourself like there are times so that you're not very late, so that you also have time to maybe rest if you want, especially if you have such a packed schedule. But I think that's much more better than doing everything like hustle, 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 like with no breaks. So I think that's like a mistake that I faced back in high school and even the start of college, when handling WorkHuman and other commitments, academic commitments as well. So that's pretty much one of the biggest challenges that I face today. And I know that it's not like I feel like I feel like a lot of people still relate with that, and it's easier said than done, but it's still quite hard to keep up with. The second challenge that I feel like I faced in WorkHuman, I would say, is definitely it's probably the fast, rapid change in trends. So WorkHuman is since we are a clothing brand, we're also trying our best to accommodate our style of designs and just like the type of clothing that we're producing towards our audience, right? Like so it's not just having input from our own team, but it's also having input from our customers, from people who actually buy things from our brand, who support us until today. And I feel like a lot of the times in this era, especially with social media, and especially with booming apps like TikTok, Instagram, trends come and go very, very, very fast, right? I can give a very, very short story. I hope it's okay. So there's this one time that I would say it's like late 2018, but in Jakarta at least, and I would say Southeast Asia in general. I'm not too sure about the U.S. or Europe and other countries, but denim jackets, especially the ones that were hand painted denim jackets, were such a big trend here. It seemed like a lot of people were using it, within my community at least. So I had the idea that, oh, well, WorkHuman should start making these hand painted denim jackets, that it also we can also like collaborate with like an organization, and also have social value towards this project. But also we want to appeal to our consumers, our customers. We want them to understand like that, hey, we're listening to you and we're listening to what you guys want, so we're gonna try our best to make this hand painted denim jacket, right? But I just remember like the first month, I had 2 samples of those denim jackets that I just wanted to conduct test marketing ads. So I just wanted to try and see if like how our audience, how our consumers would react to this product. And I certainly remember that because it's denim, it's hand painted. Obviously the price would be much more higher than like a regular T-shirt, right? Because of that, I realized that a lot of people actually wouldn't spend more. I would say that they wouldn't really spend more money on purchasing that product. So I think that gives a really big lesson for me, and not just me, but my team in general, because we felt like this was going to be our breakthrough. Like since it's such a big trend, people are going to buy it, and turns out not. There was actually no one that responded to our first marketing post like on these denim jackets compared to like our previous products. And the biggest reason we would say it's because of the big jump in price. But there is essentially not much we can do because we needed that markup if we wanted to also have, social value. We wanted to also give an equitable social value to the organizations that we're collabing with during that time. So it was very challenging, figuring that out, balancing it out as well, because at one hand, we wanted to, appeal to our consumers by, following the current trends, like what we want to do, following that certain art style. And on the other hand, we also want to keep, our consumers happy by not not putting not having the selling price of the product too unrealistically high, especially for our certain market. So I think there was a big mismatch between that, and we're still young. We're still, since most of the team are youths, including myself during that time. It was definitely a big learning curve for us. It was a loss at one point, but we also ended up gaining back from that loss, learning that we also, as much as we want to appeal to those current trends, we also have to be realistic with our expectations, and especially realistic with this entire of how we sell our products and how much we can mark them up, so that people will still be able to buy it. So yeah, I think those two are some challenges one of the two of the biggest challenges that I faced in WorkHuman so far.
Yeah, and since you rightly talked about TikTok and Instagram, so we have also seen the rise in the use of hashtags on Twitter, Instagram Reels, and now we are in the Clubhouse era. So do you think social justice will be impacted in some sort of way in this internet era, especially since the barrier and cost to interact with anyone across the world has kind of vanished?
Yep, 100%. I feel like social media is actually a very, very important tool, that helps mobilize social movements, that helps mobilize social issues, social causes today. Even just with one viral post, it can literally spread around the world, and let a lot of people on various parts of the world know about a certain issue going on, let's say within your country or like within a certain region of the world. But at the same time, because of this growing fast pace, method of like communication between people, I think it's also a time where we realize, or actually maybe it's the better way to say it is that it's a time that people also learn consume, information the right way. And what I mean by that is that since we're a lot of the times when people find their news online, especially through social media where people voice out opinions, sometimes people need to realize that information can be unreliable. They can be a bit flawed or biased depending on where you get your information from as well. So I would say digital literacy is something that's very, very important, especially today when we talk about social justice within social media itself. It's important. It's good that we have this amazing tool to help so many people, like even a lot of young kids nowadays. I remember like back when I was 13, I had no idea about some issues going on halfway across the world, and now kids that age do. So that's crazy to hear, but despite all the good from sharing information, through to a lot of people around the world, I think people also need to be cautious of how they receive this information, and also be careful of like the sources of where they get this information from as well.
So what I understand is you always need to verify the news source you are consuming from, and I believe that voicing opinions through social media, as we talked about, is still going to take a long time to reach the masses, since not everyone is privileged enough to own a cell phone. So, what do you think about access to social justice, especially for those who can't afford even a basic smartphone, or just a rudimentary device which can place them on the world map and give them access to tons of information?
Well, yeah, first off, I feel like, yeah, it's true. For you to have access to social media and the digital space, I think that itself is a really big privilege already. Um, So when it comes to discussing about how people who don't have access to, the digital space, don't have access to these digital tools, how can they receive this type of information? There's various ways, and I think a lot of the times people would expect various, let's say NGOs or various organizations or initiatives to be the backbone of this work, right? To be, to be the main source of communication for, or main point of information for people who don't have access to technology or the digital world. However, I think it's also important that we, people from different parts of the world hold their governments accountable for being able to give access towards, digital space for everyone, or not. I wouldn't idealistically say everyone, but to be able to give people, the people in their countries the opportunity, to have a space when it comes to talking in the digital world, or even to be given the access to reach that. But I think another reason that I would say is also related to the role of media, right? The media that we have today. And this is not, I wouldn't say digital media, I would say something that's more focused on paper, especially if we're talking about, various communities who, let's say, won't really use social media, who don't have access to those types of informations. A lot of paper information through paper is something that is still commonly used, right? And it's most of the times in, cities, or even in the rural areas of Indonesia, is the main point of communication, is the main point of news. It's the source of where people gather the information from. So things like newspapers, magazines. I feel like the media also has a responsibility in educating, their audience about various issues going on as well. Since obviously it's very hard, because a lot of the times, since we're living in a very fast-paced era where a lot of people are learning so many new things, I feel that it's actually kind of hard as well, right, to have an equal distribution of access towards information, since a lot of people, or not a lot, but I would say that since not everyone, like you said, has access to that certain type of information, right? Not everyone is digitally literate, to be able to like go to Twitter and like Instagram and like go through all of these and fully comprehend and understand. A lot of people depend even on small things such as, the newspapers, magazines, um, even national news, like on the television and whatnot. So I feel like the media and the government's role in the media as well, perhaps, also are very, very impactful in providing, this type of equitable access to information for everyone. At least that's what I think within my community as well.
Yeah, I mean, even in some parts of India, like we still lacking, newspapers and all, and the primary mode of communication is through radio. So a lot of villagers used to listen to conversations or listen to programs through radio, and that is their primary source of information. And I believe it is up to the government, as you rightly mentioned, as well, that they have to provide these underprivileged sections of the society some kind of resources, so that they have these the equal access to information, as I would rightly say. And also the communities in these villages play a lot of role in bridging that gap between access to information. And so, yeah, was it in some sort of way hard for you to get people to hear you out initially, especially since when one is fairly young, people don't tend to take you that seriously regarding such issues, and you were in college at that time, and it really gets hard convincing the society. So did you face some sort of challenges along those lines, and how did you manage to overcome those?
I definitely did face a lot of challenges, especially when trying to voice out, these social issues to youths, especially back then when I started, sometime around 2017 to 2018. I would feel like it's very, very much different from today. And the difference is crazy because today, when we talk about social issue, um, within my community at least, it spreads like wildfire, right? A lot of people are reposting it on their Instagram stories, on their feeds, in whatever social platforms that they have. But back then, I feel like it didn't really feel like something mandatory to post. It felt like, oh, if someone wasn't fully educated on the certain situation, they wouldn't really speak up on it, or they would just stay silent, perhaps because one, they don't know about the issue, or maybe two, they're uncomfortable talking about it. Um, but right, it was quite hard in the start trying to break open these, let's say, like echo chambers or like these type of boundaries, especially to youths within my community, because when we talk about social justice issues, at least, a lot of these issues have very, very different perspectives. Have it can be seen as controversial to some people. It can be seen very scary to talk about with some people. So a lot of times people don't engage with this type of social issue. Um, for example, the first time I started WorkHuman, our first batch of shirts was focused on gender equality. Um, and there's this one specific shirt that has a very, very, I would say, like a very daring feminist slogan. And in turn, it actually also, talks about gender equality and women empowerment in Indonesia. However, as far as I remember, when I first started WorkHuman, a lot of people, I feel like, were a bit hesitant on purchasing the shirt because they thought that, oh, if I wear this, does this classify me as a feminist? Because I don't want to be labeled as that. That those small things were like the first challenges that I've had, especially with communicating on a certain social issue to various youths within my community. But I feel like why it's different now is because I would say because of, number one, social media, right? Like, it's always changing. Trends are always changing. How people receive information and how people, process these informations are always changing. And since today we live in such a, I would say, like, quote unquote woke era, like, everyone is very much when the internet is very much consumed as well with like political correctness and just trying to educate a lot of people on like a lot of issues. Now people are more open, to learning about these issues. Whereas back then, it was just like a simple scroll that people would see on like social media. So yeah, I think that's a really, really big challenge, is like the time difference that we've had. The entire time jump from 2017, 2018 to today, because of the role of social media and its very, very like fast growing trends. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much how those are some challenges that I faced. But did that answer the question, by the way?
Yes,
Was
it
that
does.
fine?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Cool, cool.
Yeah, and you also, recently gave a TED Talk. So how was that experience for you, and what does it feel like to give a TED Talk?
Oh yeah. Well, I that TED Talk, if I'm not mistaken, was 2019, like late 2019. So it's actually been a while since it's been 2 years since that. But it was really fun. Honestly, that's my overall impression. Um, I feel like every time it comes to public speaking, there's always drawbacks to it. Like, I don't think it's always like rainbows and butterflies. I think before every public speaking event, I am scared to my stomach. Like, I feel sick. But what really, really inspired me was actually the fact that, as far as I remember, when I was talking, within on that TEDx stage, it was in a high school. It wasn't. I'm not sure if I should label it as TEDx. It was TEDx Youth. It's a branch I think, or it's a part of TEDx, but it's mostly focused on, high schools and youths. So because it was a TEDx youth event, it was very, very heartwarming, since I saw obviously a lot of youths, a lot of high school students that wanted to learn more about WorkHuman, wanted to learn more about what I did. And to me, that was very heartwarming, because I've never really, as far as I know, like as what I said back then, it was kind of hard for people to be, interested in social issues, right? It's because people, I feel like it also depends on like your passion. Like if you're interested in politics, like of course you would be. But if, let's say, you were a student that's interested in, let's say, like business or science, you probably wouldn't really pay that much attention to social issues as other people would. But that time I saw a lot of students from various backgrounds interested in my TED Talk, and also talking to me afterwards, about what I do. And I think that was one of the times where I felt that, wow, the work that I do in WorkHuman, isn't just for me, but it's also for others. It's something that I hope, will inspire other people, and I hope will be that push towards, other youths to not be afraid to learn about these social issues, to also learn how to digest information correctly, and to also be just know that even if you're a youth, you still have that capability to make a certain impact within, your own community or your own space. So yeah, it was a nerve-wracking experience. Public speaking, as always, for me, it always is. But at the end of the day, it was a really, really fun time.
Yeah, it must have been because a lot of students, aspire to give a TED talk someday in their lives, and it's really a dream for a lot of people. So yeah, I mean, you get a bit nervous before your public speaking event, but if you are, prepared well, if you are prepared well enough, you are, able to communicate that whatever you want to communicate with the audience, and it's really fruitful at the end of the day. And I always
Mhm.
that, and I sincerely believe that education is that one weapon which can change the society for the good. So
Very, very true.
yeah, and I mean, social media, bridges that gap between information, between equal access to information and information dissemination. So I believe social media would be
Mhm.
a tool which would, actually change people's mindsets and uh, change the entire, society and how it views various social issues such as feminism and all those. So, I mean, we have a long way to go. And
Mhm.
yeah, and what is that one advice you would like to give your future self, and especially to people who are, passionate about starting their own social impact venture and NGO?
I would say one of the biggest advices that I would tell my future self, or actually maybe my past self, and other people who are interested to work within the field of social justice, or yeah, within this type of, line of work, is to don't be afraid to learn and unlearn. That's probably one of the biggest advices I would give. And what do I mean by that? When I say don't be afraid to learn, don't be afraid to basically learn things from outside of what you know, to break open your own echo chambers, right? Because let's just face it, like a lot of the times when we talk about a certain social issue, most of the perspectives that we have on that social issue, it's already ingrained within ourselves, whether it was by school or whether it was by our own families, or how we were raised. A lot of those values are just carried on, and which is why we act how we act on like a certain issue or topic. That's how we have that certain stance. But I would say don't be afraid, to learn outside of that own perspective. Don't be afraid to challenge your own perspective, because when we fuel these conversations, I feel like um, it not only allows us to, settle our differences or to understand better from each other, but it also helps us, as a society, learn, right, to also figure out and understand, where the problem lies, or what possible solutions we can possibly, reach at. What is the middle ground, if I could say that. So those are probably the main things that I would tell my past self, because I just remember being a very young high school student that was like so passionate and like talking about gender equality. Like I didn't want to hear anyone's opinion except for like what I know. But also at times you also need to learn that when we talk about a social issue, at least, it's something that's very multifaceted. It's something that is so layered, right? We can't just say like A is correct, B is correct. We have to say A and B is correct. But hey, sometimes C can also, influence D, E, F. It's a really lengthy. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to unpack. So don't be afraid to learn, and don't be afraid to unlearn. To challenge your own perspectives. That chamber that you were brought up ever since you were young, those values that were like planted on you since you were young. Don't be afraid to look outside the box and challenge that, because I feel like that's also our responsibility as a citizen of the world, a global citizen, to understand different perspectives and different cultures as well, and see where we can meet when it comes to talking about all of these social issues, and all of and how we can navigate ourselves through them. So yeah, that would probably be my advice to my past self, to my future self, to anyone who wants to work within the field of social justice.
Yeah, I mean, and essentially one should, try to get out of their comfort zone and always try to learn new things and, always learn from people through their stories. And this pandemic has somewhere taught us that, has made the world much more smaller than it was before. And yeah, it really helps. I mean, the pandemic time, really helped me to interact with a lot of people, which I never thought I could. So it's been a blessing in disguise for me, and yeah, it's been really fruitful, and I got to learn a lot of things. I also did a lot of courses, so at the end of the day, it was really amazing to have this me time for myself, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm quite sure you must be having some really ambitious plans for WorkHuman for the future. So can you tell us a bit about those, and do you have any book recommendations which you would suggest?
Where I see WorkHuman in the future. Um, as of now, I would say that the biggest thing that I see in WorkHuman is definitely um, growing not only as a brand but also growing our team. Expanding to not only the area of Jakarta, but also maybe cities outside of that. Hopefully, gaining more volunteers from various parts of Indonesia. That's actually one of my biggest goals for our WorkHuman. And second would actually be to collaborate with more organizations and more initiatives. I definitely want to be expanding, and I also want to be like lending out a hand to various organizations and initiatives, especially those which are grassroots organizations, right? People who actually, I would say, like, take action by going down to actually meet various parts of their communities. So I feel like that's possibly my biggest two, hopes and aspirations for WorkHuman, to like grow our team, our family, and also to collaborate with more NGOs, with more organizations, more initiatives. And yeah, I wouldn't say that it's mostly, I don't really define like my goals by something numerical. I don't really say like, oh, I hope WorkHuman gets like 10K followers within the end of this year. But I think I'd rather stick to impact. So those two are pretty much the top, where I hopefully WorkHuman will be within the next couple of months or a year or the future in general. So yeah.
And I truly wish you best of luck for that. And yeah,
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we generally ask our guests to leave us and our listeners with some parting advice. So, would you like to share any words of wisdom, and what would they be?
Oh my God, words of wisdom. So if I were to give or leave any like parting words, um, I would say that just remember that whatever work that you do, always remember that you're putting not only, always remember that the work that you do is an extension of yourself. So whatever it is that you're aiming for in life, whatever goal it is, make sure that it is something that you truly enjoy doing. You know, it is something that you're passionate in, something that makes you happy. And I think this not only applies to like how I operate WorkHuman, but I would say this is an advice to pretty much everyone. Be it in school or be it whether you're like in college or whether you're actually like working now in the future. Um, have value towards everything that you do, right? Because I feel like in today's era, especially like I said with social media and even with LinkedIn, right, we always see people um, boasting or boasting about like their achievements, about what they're doing, and oftentimes it can be very damaging to other people's mental health. It can be a point of comparison for other people. And like I said, this isn't just within social media. This can also be in person or wherever it is you are. But just remember to always keep that authenticity within yourself. Forever, whatever work you do, to always let that work that you're doing, whatever passion it is, whatever field you're in, to always be an extension of yourself, truly. Right? Because you want to make sure that you're doing something that you truly love, something that you think will give you value in return, right? Um, so yeah, don't be blinded by all of this like hustle culture going on social media. Just know that everything happens within your own time, within your own pace. And yeah, at the end of the day, I would feel like whatever it is you do, do it with your heart. Do it with whatever you're passionate in. So yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you should be your own competition. You shouldn't compare yourself.
Right. Yes, I love that.
Yeah, and I also truly resonate with what Steve Jobs once said, and that being that we are here to put a dent in the universe. And I personally believe that once a person is willing to put his or her whole and soul into doing something he or she is truly passionate about and is curious enough and willing to learn, one eventually finds the way to thrive and flourish. So we shouldn't be scared of
Mm-hmm.
the future. We should just keep on doing whatever we love to do, and we'll eventually uh,
Mm-hmm.
goals and achieve our objectives.
Yes, very, very true. Love that.
So thanks a lot, Gabriella. This unfortunately brings us to the end of this podcast. I truly appreciate you sharing your wonderful experiences and your journey with us. Thank you so much for taking out the time, and best of luck.
Thank you so much too, and all the best with you as well.
Thanks, Gabriella. Thank you so much.